Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Paragon Estiletto single action OTF automatic pocket sword. Holy cow. There's not a way for me to apply my regular review process to something like this. This is wild. I mean, I've reviewed many OTFs, most of them dual action. I find those to be substantially safer. In fact, I think dual action automatic knives are, contrary to what most people believe, I think they're some of the safest pocket knives out there. Single action OTF knives, on the other hand, I think are absolutely some of the most dangerous. There's a reason that I don't own any of these. As much as I love them, I think they're super cool. Really, really cool. But there's a reason I don't own any, and I'll get into that. I've been trying to get this knife for so long, and it's been around for a long time. I am late to the game on this. This is the giant one. They used to make a smaller one. I don't know why they don't make it anymore. Well, at least they haven't made it for a long time. But this is the big one, and it is available. In fact, I will link it right down below. But let me say this. Be careful about this. These are legal where I live, but they are definitely not legal in a lot of places for a multitude of different reasons. Right? So be careful when you're ordering. Make sure you check your local laws and all of that. That's definitely up to you. Thanks so much to Not a Raccoon for sending this in. He is, in fact, not a raccoon. I have confirmed it. He'll probably be down in the comments, so make sure you give him a thumbs up if you see him down there. Thank you so much for sending this to me. I've been trying to get this thing for like a year, and finally somebody loaned me one. So this will go back to him when I'm done. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. I'll link this down below if I didn't say it. Let's go ahead and do specs. Overall length of the Paragon Estiletto coming in at, good God, 12 3/4 inches. Yeah, I thought it was only a foot long. It's longer. It's almost 13 inches. The blade length is about 5.35. Cutting edge is about 5 1/4. Let's do some size comparisons. Here it is up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. It's huge. Let's put it up against the Demco AD 20.5. Alrighty. Para 3. How about some OTFs, like some larger, more famous OTFs, since we're looking at OTF. Here it is up against the Combat Troodon from Microtech. Here it is up against the Scarab 2 from Microtech. Do I have my Ultratech down here? I think I probably do. Yeah, I got a couple more. So here it is up against the Ultratech. And how about the Guardian Tactical Recon 40, which is the biggest double action that I own. This is huge. I mean, it really does look, when I think pocket sword, like this is as close to that definition as I can get. I'm putting all these away. So yeah, it's a big knife, right? How's the action on this thing? So as far as like the single action OTFs that I've reviewed on this channel, what's the one that Heretic makes? That's the one that got me. I've been bitten by a single action OTF, and I really hate telling that story. It is that one made me really nervous around these things. I injured myself. I injured my hand once with a single action OTF, and a lot of people say, you just don't have enough experience. That's why you hurt yourself, this or that. I would argue that somebody who intentionally exposes themselves to the same thing as often as I do, while experience will yield a certain amount of caution, right? You're also more likely in that sense to eventually injure yourself, right? It definitely made me a little bit more cautious around stuff like this. So, and not everybody's the same, but that one got me. I've also handled the Halo 5 and reviewed it. I've not done the Halo 6, but I did a Halo 5. And then the ProTech Dark Angel, right? So a lot of like the, especially with the Halo, like a lot of the big ones that people are aware of. So I can give you a demonstration there. So this is single action OTFs are different than double action OTFs, where like these are in their, and I know most of you guys know this, but like a double action OTF, when it's closed, the springs are only under a slight bit of tension, right? So you're stretching the strings out by pushing this forward, and once it reaches an event horizon, it throws the blade. Same thing in the open position. The springs are only, this is just one spring. Some scarabs have two springs. That's not the point here. And then when you pull it back, same thing, you're creating a tension, it's going back in. These, you have to create that tension by, you push the button down and you pull this little lever right here and you pull it down. You are creating the tension on this spring. And now in this closed position, it is under tension, a lot of tension. And as soon as you push that button, it comes flying out the end. Way more power in something like this than a double action OTF. Even the strongest double action OTFs, these are way more powerful. This could easily puncture an aluminum can and probably a good ways into a watermelon rind, which is alarming. It is not as powerful as the Halo, right? People get really like, name all of the surfaces that it could puncture. And I'm like, ooh, why? This has enough power to cause a lot of damage. I think people are far more likely to injure themselves. I think couch ninjas like to imagine all of the adversaries that they could fell with an object like. I think you're way more likely to injure yourself with it than anybody else, right? It's just gonna happen because people are gonna sit around and play with these things, right? It has a safety on it and it works. The power is, a lot of people say it looks sluggish or it feels sluggish compared to other single action OTFs. The blade has much further to travel and the blade is also bigger. So there's more mass. But as far as the actual power of the blade coming out, it's pretty substantial. The Halo 5 is definitely stronger. I would say this is right around the same power as a lot of the other American single action OTFs out there. Definitely enough to do some damage and snappy enough to where it is pretty impressive, right? You push that button and bam! It's fun, It's cool. It's a little scary. The lock works in the open position. It'll lock the blade out completely, which I think is important because I don't know how much I trust the lock in the open position. And the thing that bothers me the most is that the latch, like where this has to connect to get it to stay, you might not be sure that it's all the way there and you let go of it and it comes back out, right? There's such a tiny little area. It's right at the very back that it finally latches, right? You push that safety switch forward and the button's not going to do anything. But when this thing is not in the safety mode, it takes so little force. A child could easily actuate this. Easily. And so could, anybody. This is just as dangerous in the hands of a little kid who finds it on accident as somebody who just doesn't know what it is, right? And they pick it up and push it. And so while, as long as, if you're going to own this thing, obviously, and this is just inviting people to, give their opinions, and that's fine. If you're going to own this thing, obviously, keep it locked up. This is not the type of thing that I, like to just pass around to people because people who don't know better do stupid things with stuff like this. This is not the type of thing you want to leave laying out, obviously, but just if you're going to own it, this isn't, obviously I'm not going to leave any knife laying around, but especially something like this. I find just under tension, it takes such little effort to push that button and a blade comes flying out, right? So yeah, just be cognizant of that. But the action is all right. It's a little grindy, right? It doesn't feel nearly as snappy or high quality as a Halo. Those are really rare and they're way more expensive. This thing is honestly fairly well priced for what it is, right? But the amount of utility you get out of it, that's a different story. So the action will definitely satisfy the average single action OTF pursuer. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. It has a pocket clip, right? So the thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3, we're going to do it at the back, and I'm going to do my best to stay away from I just don't trust the front end of these things anymore. Yeah, it's pretty thick. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3, really long. I don't know that we really needed to do that. The biggest issue here is having pockets deep enough to accommodate for this thing. It's big. It's also kind of humorously phallic shaped, right? Until the blade is actually out. Yeah. So you regular pockets, you're gonna have this thing sticking up out, a fair bit. Like most of the pocket clip's not gonna be doing its job, unless you just have super duper deep pockets. There is a good chance that it could go off in your pocket. I gotta say that. If you have the safety on, no. But I can see somebody who's gonna carry this. If you're really like, I'm gonna carry that thing day in and day out. No matter how sure you think you are, right? No matter how many times, right, that you put it in and out of your pocket, there's a slight chance you're gonna forget to put that safety on. Something else that's in your pocket, or it bumps you. I know the button's recessed, but it's, ugh. If it does go off in your pocket, best case scenario, it fires right through. And it'll definitely, I feel like there's probably enough power there to puncture one layer of denim, right? Worst case scenario, it makes a good hole in your leg. Not all the way through. It's not that powerful that it's gonna go through a leg, but it'll make a hole, right? You'll be going to the emergency room, for sure. So keep that in mind. Okay, the safety's on, good. Let's go ahead and weigh it. So this is aluminum and CPM S30V. These are made in the USA. I don't know that it really matters all that much what the blade steel is, but if you put a lot of value into the composition of the steel, then there you go. S30V is, while it's been around forever, it is that is crucible steel. It's still a super steel. Even though it's an older super steel, it's still definitely a good knife steel composition. I don't know that it's being perfectly accentuated by the geometry of this blade, but there you go. It's S30V. Weight is, let's see here. Whoops, upside down. We're coming in at really not all that crazy. 6.31 ounces, all things considered, fairly good ratios, which is not something I expected to say. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. I'm pretty sure that all these screws are a T8. No, really? Are these T6? Okay, I don't know why the heads of those fasteners really looked like they would be T8. Okay, T8 and possibly, I'm going to try a T7. A T7 is sticky. I don't know. That's a weird head. The pocket clip screws, oddly enough, I think those are T8. Yeah, the pocket clip screws are T8. That's so weird. Okay, so at least T6. You could probably jam a T7 in there. And then T8 for the pocket clip screws. Truthfully, I would not take this apart. This just, people are going to try, so I guess, I have no idea what their warranty is or whether or not you should be doing that. This is just not something, there's no part of me that wants to take this apart. I don't think it's very complicated. There's not a lot of parts to it, but it's not something I'd want to be holding in place while you push the thing back down and snap it together and you hold the thing right with the blade constantly wanting to fire back out of the end. I don't know. If you really want to do that, it's up to you, but I would take great caution, right? Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness of this here real quick. It's a pretty thick blade. It's ground, it's dagger ground and it's sharpened on both sides. So we're pretty thick to begin. Well, yeah, you know what? It's not really all that crazy. It just looked a lot thicker. I think it's about 120 thousandths there. Okay. Meat and potatoes time. It is a long, really long handle. It's not uncomfortable at all. It's actually fairly comfortable. This is not going to be an item that is convenient to cut with. And it's because there's a huge flat here, massive, and then barely any room to drop down towards the edge. This is the thickest behind the edge blade I have ever felt off of 120 thousandths of, steel to begin with, right? It is ridiculously thick at the edge. This is obviously designed more as a weapon and less as a tool. How well it serves in that role, I have no idea. Absolutely no experience whatsoever. I bet it'll work though. Just deductive reasoning tells me that, yeah, it probably will do that. So there you go. I don't know. Maybe I need more combat training to understand what I'm talking about. I'm just making a blind guess, right? Cutting things and breaking down boxes, boy, I think you're in for a rough time. But at least you have a long handle to hang on to, and you can kind of get where you want. If you really want to force it into that roll, then it'll be fine. This little thing right here is going to cause a little bit of a, discomfort. It sticks out enough to where you can get a hold of it. I find myself wanting to use my fingernail to be sure that I'm not going to slip off of it. And again, every time I really take some extra time to push it all the way back because it seems like it's not totally locked in, right? Yeah. Fit and finish. Honestly, the aluminum frame looks pretty good. It's very shiny, right? The seams all meet up, right? Everything looks pretty good here. There's nothing really wonky here. The blade is a different story. Man, what a goofy grind. I mean, it is all over the place. It's wider in some areas, thinner, right? As far as the symmetry out to the tip, it's a little goofy, right? A little bit. I don't think this is too off base. Yeah, this side's goofy too. I don't think that's too off base for Paragon. This is going to grind in and out. A lot of people said that. They were pointing that out in the short. Listen, the Halo also grinds. Like all OTFs grind. Even my Deadlock grinds a little bit. This one seems to be a little bit more grindy. There's definitely more than enough power in this spring to push it through that. And I think as time progresses, those surfaces that are grinding will probably smooth themselves out. You can obviously clean it, put some, I would use Rem oil on this, and it probably, as long as you keep debris out of there, it'll probably just continue to fire harder until the tension in the spring wears out, which honestly, I have no idea. This is the type of thing where they say don't store it in the closed position, which honestly, I think with this, I definitely agree with. Number one, for the life of the spring, and number two, it's actually safer with the blade out. As long as you're, keeping it like locked down and not just like laying out on a table where anybody can grab it, right? But I mean, with the blade out, it's no more dangerous than a fixed blade that's laying out without the sheath, right? Which people often mount on walls, above couches, for some reason. So yeah, I think that's the way to go. The spring, obviously, the tension of the spring will wear out over time, especially if you store it in a closed position. And I think that's just asking for more trouble. So yeah, these come in blue and red and black and all of that. The lightning bolt in the handle here is extremely corny. Lightning! It's just super corny, right? This thing is just like tactical taken to the point where it's just like circus music playing in my head. But it's freaking cool, man. I mean, one of the shorts I did got hundreds of thousands. Maybe at this point it's over 1 million views because you just don't see stuff like this. It's just kind of a ridiculous thing. I mean, it's just like a metal lightsaber that can potentially fit in your pocket. It's absolutely wild. So there you go. I don't know that there's a whole lot more that I can say here. It does look cool in the open position, all except for the lightning bolt. I think it would look a lot better without the bolt. And I understand, I guess, why this flat needs to be so wide, because of how, this thing rides internally. Like that big open area needs to be there. I mean, what are you gonna do here? Let's move on. There's no lanyard. Well, no, I think that hole back there is, I don't know if it's like moisture drainage or something. I'll give you guys a look at the spring on the inside. If I could have sworn that I had my flashlight out here. There it is. Let's see if we can get in here and look.
yeah, so you can see that spring extends almost the entire length. Well, it's probably about up to about where the button is. But yeah, it's a big spring, and there's plenty of tension in there to throw the blade. Absolutely. No lanyard hole, and it has a pocket clip that is only mountable for right-handed people. Carry depth, I would call this shallow, except that the total percentage of the knife that would hypothetically be in your pocket, if your pockets were that deep, is enough to where I would call this medium carry depth, right? But not much is sticking up out of your pocket. If you could actually get this thing all the way in the pocket, the thing would actually be fairly unassuming, which I guess is nice if you need to be unassuming with this. All right. Lockout and blade play. I don't know. I mean, if the lock, I would say go ahead and make sure that the secondary lock is in place, right? Then again, it's like, what type of surface are you trying to penetrate with this? And what, to question the lock strength is also to question what it is that you're trying to penetrate, right? I think this is plenty solid enough to where if you like stabbed it into a block of wood, it probably wouldn't disengage. I think that's fine, especially with the secondary lock out. But I don't know. It's just weird getting into the different topics of what this thing is going to be used for. So I don't know. The lockout solidity, it's about the same as any other OTF, any other Microtech OTF, right? It certainly is more solid than the floppy Benchmade Infinel, the wiggliest, goofiest OTF I've ever handled. Yeah, it's about the same as my Microtechs, Guardian Tacticals, stuff like that. Yeah, and then that's, I don't know. Pulling this in and out, it's very, very grindy. And probably over time, like I said, that'll smooth out, especially if you keep it, rem oiled. But it's going to be a little grindy. The price on it, surprisingly, is $260, which is amazing considering how long this thing has been around. I think the price has only increased by $10 or $20 over multiple years. If you just really, really, really want a single action OTF and you also really want one that's huge, this is not a bad price for one, right? I think you'll be less than impressed with the fit and finish. The grindiness might bother you. But the main thing to keep in mind here is do whatever you want with your own money. Check and make sure that it's legal to own in your area. And if you're actually going to carry it, make sure it's legal to carry. In some areas, it's legal to own, but not to carry, right? I'm mainly talking about places in the United States. If you live outside the United States, fat chance is going to be legal, right? You probably already know that. But yeah, check. It's just, you really got to be careful with this. I will probably never own a single action OTF. I just don't want something like this lying around. And I think that I am the most likely recipient of injury. But as often as I accidentally nick myself with knives that I consider to be perfectly safe, this thing is, I would say you're 10 to 50 times more likely to accidentally get yourself with one of these. I had one fire into my hand. It was my fault, right? As is the case with any injury received from a knife while you're holding it. It's the user's fault, right? But I shouldn't have had my hand in front of it, and I wasn't even paying attention, really. It was like my subconscious put my finger on the button, and the safety was off, and it got me. It was the Heretic. But that got me a good quarter inch, and that was enough for me to be like, nah, I don't know if I'm happy with this. The double actions, the nice thing is you are definitely going to be aware that you're about to fire this. There is no question with a double action OTF that the blade is about to come out of the handle, because the amount of force that you have to apply to that switch is enough to where you cannot do it accidentally, right? With this, most of the time, I think most people are going to be smart enough to know where their hands are and what they're doing, right? But it's just a little bit more likely to be kind of, So, really neat. I'm glad I finally got to get my hands on it. If you guys like this, I mean, it's not the worst price in the world. It's good that it's made in the USA. It's fun. You know, I wouldn't get it around your friends who like to do dumb stuff with things that they don't know how to handle. But if it does make for an interesting conversation piece amidst people who are not going to be dumb with it, right? And so, these are knives that are going to be an absolute must for some people's collection, and not for others. As a daily user tool, I mean, I don't know, as a self-defense thing, whatever. I'm not going to comment on the self-defense thing. Whatever you want to imagine in whatever fantasy scenario you want, then do that. As far as a day-to-day tool, this knife makes no sense whatsoever. It will slow you down. You're better off using a pair of scissors than something like this, right? But yeah, I don't know. It's just fun. And, every time I fire it, it is cool. That's the best part about this is bam, it almost never gets old. I've been tempted many times by the ProTech Dark Angel. I really wish that they would make a smaller one of these. I don't know that it would be any less dangerous. Or I wish they'd make the smaller one again, or at least, put it back in production if it's not in production. I think that would be cool. It would make a little bit more sense, but still, Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. This is fun. It's crazy. It's pretty dangerous. Do what you will with that information. Be careful if you're going to pick one up. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Thanks so much to Not a Raccoon. Sincerely, thank you for letting me finally take a look at this. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.